So one of my core teachers in meditation and qigong, and in a number of things for that matter, who I've been working with for I guess going on 7 years now, is a former mixed martial artist. He used to, when he was younger, he used to train for 4 hours per day, fight at the regional level competitively, and was really, really serious about it. And he made a comment to me recently. I'm actually a big mixed martial arts fan myself, and what he said is that at the very highest level, like the guys who are champions in the UFC or championship contenders in the UFC, at the very highest level, all of these guys have really, really similar skill levels. The differences in their skills are like razor thin. They're all black belt level fighters, in other words. The difference is in their mind. And what he actually said is that he's convinced, after years and years of not only fighting competitively and training, but like following mixed martial arts and martial arts on a high level, he said fighting is like 90% mental. And the more I watch interviews and so on with some of my favorite athletes in mixed martial arts, the more I see that same thing being said over and over and over again. They all say that fighting is completely a game of the mind. And once again, at the highest level, the skill differences are razor thin. So what I'll pose to you today, what I'll suggest is that this is not unique to fighting. Mixed martial arts is in that way no different from any other sport, including basketball. At the very highest levels, everybody is super skilled, and what makes the difference is the way that they use their mind. The problem is most sports have not caught on to that. I think in fighting, it's so obvious because there's so much fear involved. There's so much pressure. It's one-on-one. You're almost naked in front of millions of people fighting until somebody either quits or the final bell goes, right? And the referee stops the fight. Like, it's pretty obvious to anybody who's ever done that the mind is a huge component to that. In basketball, it's not as obvious, and yet the mind is still controlling every single thing that we do on the basketball court. And so it's a massive, massive, massive component. The way I'll put it is that the mind is not like second or third most important thing in the game next to your skills, your athleticism. It's first, second, and third, because it controls everything that you do. It's the control center for every move that you make. Every move on the court, every decision comes from a signal in the mind first. And if that signal is not relaxed and clear and focused, if it's hazy and wobbly and like hesitant, you're not going to make those crisp, sharp, accurate decisions on the floor. So what brought this to mind is, as I was going through and I was watching fighters speak about this, what I realized is that the greatest martial artists in history were all philosophers. They were all practitioners of the mind. People like Bruce Lee come to mind. George St. Pierre, actually, surprisingly enough, I have been listening to various interviews with him, and he's incredibly deep thinker, incredibly philosophical, and thinks about the way that the mind works almost constantly, and thinks about like higher level philosophical concepts as well. And the only basketball player that I can point to who's really done this is Kobe. The rest of the basketball world, and forgive me, like I could be wrong on this, there could be some undercover philosopher in the NBA I'm not thinking of, like Giannis is quite philosophical at times, but I don't think to the degree that Kobe was. Kobe was a real practitioner of the deep game, and there aren't really any others that I can point to. Phil Jackson, but he's a coach, and so you get the idea. In mixed martial arts as a sport, the priority on the mind is very, 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 very high. Like if you don't address the mind, you are going to crumble when you get into that octagon, and it's going to be obvious in front of everybody, and the consequences are potentially life-altering, right? You can get seriously hurt if you don't have the deep game under control. In basketball, it's not that severe, and so we can avoid it. So my realization is that, or my belief rather, I should say, is that basketball is sort of behind the curve in terms of this. And I've told this story in the past where one of my earliest Taoist teachers, Bruce Francis, is a master in the Taoist lineage and has for decades been working with thousands and thousands of people in high level meditation, like some of the highest, he is the highest level meditation and Qigong teacher in the Western world, I would say. I mean, that's hard to qualify, but regardless, incredibly high level master. And again, worked with thousands of people all over the world in so many professions. And he came up to me after one of our sessions when we were working together, and he goes, he had heard what I do in the basketball world. And he said, I've worked with like hundreds of athletes in almost every sport: golfers, football players, baseball players, hockey players, martial artists, of course. He was a high-level martial artist early in his life as well. And he said, never a basketball player. Never a basketball player. And that was so striking to me because basketball is so far behind when it comes to the game of the mind that we should be, as deep game practitioners, extremely excited about this. This is your biggest advantage over everybody else that you go up against, even at the very highest level. If you can master the deep game and embody that sort of philosophical spirit of the warrior and the samurai and the martial artist and the Bruce Lees of the world and, the ancient warriors from the Taoist lineage and so on, like this is a deep path for thousands of years in martial arts. The mind has been woven into that path, and in basketball it hasn't. And so if you can take that same fighter spirit to your game and to the deep game, you will be so far ahead. And ahead for, I think, a number of years, because basketball probably is 5 to 10 years, I would say, away from catching up. So take advantage of this. This is my encouragement to you. Again, I want to say this one more time for emphasis: embody that fighter spirit and the spirit of the warrior philosopher in your game. Kobe, I think, is the only one who's truly done it, and we as a community here at Deep Game are doing the exact same thing. So that should be encouraging to you. I hope you enjoyed this one. Reach out if you need anything, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Hey, it's Taylor. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And if you did, the best thing to do right now while it's fresh in your mind is to head over to deepgame.com and join us in our free masterclass. Now, this is where you'll learn all 8 laws of the deep game and all of the fundamentals that you need to know about the part of basketball that's played with the mind. We've had players call this the best hour of basketball learning of their lives, and it's completely free right now. So head over to deepgame.com to join us, and I will see you there.